Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Q. I'm listening. This is Kiana. I hope everyone had a great past week as always. I always like to jump right in when I have a guest, and I happened to stumble upon an page that really caught my eye, not only with the vibrantly drawn cartoons, but the powerful words along with them. It never really dawned on me in an obvious way how much our inner child still plays a huge role in our everyday emotional lives. Now, I'm not very familiar with the thinking process of healing through our inner child, but I do believe it does help. So, I'd like to welcome Sheila to the show to share some general insight about the subject and what we can do to start the healing. So, for starters, let me further introduce Sheila, whose Instagram is on the inner child, Chronicles of the Inner Child, Parenting the Inner Child, and Understanding Its Wounds. Welcome, Sheila. How are you doing?
Hi, Kiana. Well, I'm great. I'm a bit intimidated because it's my first podcast ever.
Oh, feel comfortable. I'm still new at this.
Yeah, but still, I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, I just wanted to mention something like prior to talking about anything is that I'm a trainee counselor and I'm also a trainee clinical sexologist. But anything that I'm going to discuss today obviously is informed by my learning, but it's not as a professional, like it's not a professional advice. It's just my vision on the inner child healing and my own experience, and also all the content that I create on Instagram that relates with the topic. So yeah, that's
Understandable.
my
Understandable.
disclaimer.
Yes, understandable. Well, now, how did you, for starters, how did you start your page on Instagram? Because that's from schooling and from going through school and stuff. Did you, because I mean, the drawings are absolutely wonderful for starters.
Well, these are my own drawings that, believe it or not, I do it on my phone,
Really?
on Paint, which is very old school. It's a very simple app. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I like podcasts, but I wish that if people could see the drawings, but they'll be able to catch them on your Instagram page on the inner child when they get a chance to look at it. But now across your Instagram page, you have these strong drawings that are accompanied with these very strong words, a lot with them. Could you maybe give us a quick blurb of each important word that went with some of these drawings? Or how you came about. For starters, connection. That was a big one that I saw in there.
Mm. Yeah, Connection was the latest one that I posted after a while without posting, because obviously I see a lot of accounts that are posting daily or weekly and they are so consistent. I didn't get there. I am pretty inconsistent with my. I mean, I started like posting almost every day, and then slowly life got in the way, and also I didn't want to force it because all the drawings, all the texts are coming from the heart. So I really wanted them to be authentic, and I'm not like I think authenticity and truth are my main drives for these
Yeah.
accounts, and not necessarily like numbers and figures about like my community online. I care about my community, but I want to be true to them. Now, about connection, well, I think this post just follows all the previous posts, and has everything to do with what you leave at current year, like in your development as a child,
Yeah.
and how you connect, and what is your primary connection, and what it means in the future for you, like your primary connection gonna define the way you're gonna connect with others in the future. So yeah, the post was about it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely. Now, one that I had never heard the word before, but enmeshment. What does that one mean?
Enmeshment is when you merge, like you have your own needs and somebody else has their own needs, and you kind of get confused between the two. You are so merged with each other that you just can't can't really identify which need is yours and which need is somebody else's.
Wow. Okay. Now, would you say that you could have that connection not only like because we say inner child and inner child, I think connections with parents, but enmeshment could be connections with anybody, any kind of relationship, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously it reflects your primary connection, because again, the way you've learned how to connect is how you're going to tend to connect in the future. So until you heal this connection, if it's not um, if you didn't manage to have fulfilling connections, uh, fueled with acceptance and mutual respect and growth, you're gonna end up reproducing the same wounded connection. So
Yeah.
enmeshment is actually a wounded connection. It's a connection of codependency.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a
Mm,
lot of sense. All right, now the next one that I know you had tied to your drawings was intimacy.
yeah. So intimacy is pretty much like a deep, the depth of a connection. So intimacy, the first intimacy that we experience is with our primary caregiver, and it is like a little child is so small, a baby is so small, and it's all about like it, you have the body, and then it's all emotional, and the connection that you have with your primary caregiver makes this connection so intimate, because they touch you and then you feel things, and everything is so connected. And intimacy is about this. It's about a very deep connection, and the deepest it gets and the more intimate it gets.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I know so I think when people think of the word intimacy, they think of or like, more adult intimacy, but I think that intimacy definitely reverberates into that first moment. And I like how you keep on saying primary caregiver as opposed to mother child, because it's not always mother child that is the
Yeah.
first intimate connection that you have with somebody.
Mm.
Now the next one, invalidation. That one I was a little I need more on that one, because that one I was like, invalidation, I'm not sure. I know what it means to be invalidated, but invalidation, could you expand on that one?
Yeah. Let me go back quickly to intimacy, just to clarify a point.
Sure.
Intimacy so includes sex. It does include sex in adult relationship.
Yeah.
However, intimacy isn't sex. So intimacy is about truth, and it's about discovering the truth. And this is why it has a sense of depth. So you can put on a mask in public, and when this mask is removed and you discover a truth, then you're being intimate with this person, with who you show something that you don't necessarily reveal in public. So this
Yeah.
is what intimacy is about. Then about invalidation, it is more about, so being validated is about being accepted, being seen and
Mhm.
accepted. If you are invalidated, it's almost like somebody was telling you you don't exist, and like in my word, there is no room for you to exist.
Yeah.
So when you're an adult, you can potentially put up with it. It's still hurtful. It's like still rejection, but
Yeah.
you can put up with it. But when you're a child, your life at, on a survival level, your life is depending on this acceptance. So when you're invalidated, when you're not welcome to this world, and when we don't see you and we don't accept you and we don't consider your needs at all, your feeling is that you don't exist.
Oh,
So this is
okay.
what invalidation is about. It's
Okay.
about
Okay.
dismissal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the next one was projection.
Mm.
That one I didn't. I need more on that one too, because a lot of them I was like, oh, okay, well I can get that. I can see that one, because like I said, I don't know too much about inner child healing, but I do come from a background. I used to be a preschool teacher, and I used to do infants and toddlers and 2-year-olds. So I have a lot of child development background and knowing how important it is to form that bond and stuff like that with them. But projection was one that I was like, I don't know. I got to write that one down.
Well, I'd say I'm curious to know more about how you understood it in the first place. What?
Okay. So in my eyes, I was thinking like, and I keep on going to like, I guess not mother child, but child primary caregiver, and thinking like projection wise, maybe the adult might be projecting things onto the child, and the child is receiving them and maybe not in the best. You kind of like a you have to be careful
Mm.
project what you project on a child.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes sense, and it's really, really close to the definition. I am talking about it on the account. So projection is about. So we all carry our own beliefs, our own belief system, and we walk in the street like little projectors. And because we tend to want to verify our beliefs in the word.
Mhm.
So let's say, yeah, I'm working in the street with the idea that everyone is dangerous, and I'm gonna see on everyone's faces a threat because this
Mhm.
is this is the belief I'm carrying.
Ah,
Now, if I'm
okay.
walking in on the street thinking that everybody is gonna be nice to me, I'm gonna project this belief in the word as well. So basically, projection um, is about creating a reality in somebody else
Okay.
that actually is our own. So yeah, projecting is something that like you have within, and you want to see in something else.
Got you. Okay. All right. Now, displacement. That one I kind of, um, I feel like I think I kind of knew what you meant by that. I can't remember the exact drawing that went away, that went with it right now. I wish I had my thing pulled up right now to go with drawings with words. But can you explain displacement for me?
Yeah, so displacement is when you feel like you're, for example, you're very unhappy about something, but you can't. Let's say you're very angry about your boss,
Yes.
okay? But because you don't want to be fired, you're gonna hold this anger for yourself, all this resentment, and you're gonna go home and you're gonna lash out on your wife
Ah, okay, that makes
because
sense.
because you're just gonna displace this feeling that can't be expressed on the moment. You're gonna put it somewhere else where it's safer to be expressed,
Yeah.
because your wife is not gonna fire you. I mean, she might dump you, but but which is, well, you might think that the threat is less
Yes.
less threatening than being
Yeah.
fired. So
Oh gosh. No, I feel like displacement happens a lot now that you said that. Now that
yeah,
you've given me that example, I feel like displacement happens a lot.
yeah.
Oh, denial.
Well, denial. I don't know what you're talking about.
Good one. Good one.
Well, that's pretty much it. Like denial is the inability to look at something. It's just like you're unable to consider something, or
Yeah.
something that has happened, um, a truth about yourself. It's a truth about an event, a loss, a feeling. It feels so unsafe
Hmm.
that you'd rather ignore it as if it didn't exist.
That makes sense. I know that I'm sure denial is another big one. I know that I've definitely swam in the river of denial before many a time. Um Now the unconscious. What was that one about?
That's a big one. Well, the unconscious mind is where we, well, where we store things, because obviously we have our conscious mind. We are here together and we are having a conversation. Then in the background of our mind, a lot is happening, and it's influenced by a tremendous amount of past experiences, past feelings, of um, like beliefs and emotions. It's just like there is an entire word behind the word that we see, and these words at the on the scale of an individual is called the unconscious mind.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's basically, let's say you have a storage, and we often in psychology we often take the example of the iceberg. We
Okay.
see the tip of the iceberg, and the unconscious mind is what you can't see, but it's really present, and actually it can be very threatening, like the Titanic.
Yes, exactly.
We learned it from the past, but yeah.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Now, this one is a well, there's two more: attachment,
Mhm.
and that one I think is pretty pretty self-explanatory, but I'll let you explain that one anyway cuz it's, not everyone knows what attachment means.
Okay. So attachment is actually very important when we talk about the inner child, because attachment is what we rely on when we come to this word. We came to this word um, as a still developing being. We came up with a not fully developed prefrontal cortex, so we can't really, and we are not independent physically. We need the primary caregiver to fulfill our needs. So attachment is this link that we get and we hold on to it. We're gonna find our primary caregiver and we're gonna keep crying, and and we're gonna just hold on to them so they can fulfill our needs until we become slowly independent. And attachment is this. And if we have a wounded attachment, and we talk a lot about attachment style that has been discovered by Bowlby, and it's we get the avoidant and the anxious attachment style, and and we just, so basically this is also relating to the connection. It's this connection, this attachment
Yeah.
is going to have, the initial one is going to have an impact on our future attachment, because this is all what we know.
Yeah.
This is basically um, how we connected in the first place. So, but attachment can heal,
That's
and
good.
yeah, and it's not, because I hear often a lot of people, especially when they look at some posts on Instagram that may be incomplete, and they're like, "Oh, I'm avoidant, or I'm anxious, and I'm stuck, I'm fucked." Like, sorry, I don't know
Oh,
if I'm
no, no, you're allowed to. It's all
okay,
good.
great. Yeah, because as a French person, I tend to swear a lot.
So do I.
Yeah, I'm really. So yeah, I mean, it it can heal, and studies have proven that being in contact with people with a secure attachment style actually highly influence the healing process of your insecure attachment style. And yeah, it's very important to say, and to say again, because people need to remember that no matter how much you've been wounded in childhood, once you get back your power, you can actually go back to a secure attachment style.
Oh, that's good news to hear. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's like a breath of fresh air. That really is. Now, the last one is a really big one, the ego.
Oh yeah.
Now, yes, the ego, I know. I remember learning about the ego in school years and years ago. So you want to explain that one?
Well, I mean, I think the ego is a very interesting one, and I think you can't really talk about the ego without talking about spirituality,
Oh, yeah.
because it's important to understand how many selves we have. We have ourselves, and I'd say people don't define it the same way. I have the Sheila who knows things and who speaks, but I also have the Sheila who listens to the Sheila who speaks, and it's like, really?
Yep. Exactly.
So I will define the Sheila who says like, really, more like my actual self.
Yeah.
Then the Sheila who speaks and who wants to be understood and who wants to appear a certain way in the world, I would say it's the ego. The ego is the adaptable part of ourselves, and it's the one that behaves. It behaves in society in a way that makes us safe. So depending on the system, the family system and the environment that we grew up in, safety doesn't mean the same thing.
Okay.
So the ego has learned safety in a specific environment and gonna be adapted based on this environment. But the word is broad and we have different systems. So that's why we tend to have different type of egos who behave differently.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now what would you say is by definition inner child healing?
Okay. So inner child, like first, let's speak about the inner child.
Yeah.
The inner child. Remember how I've been saying that we came to this word completely dependent, really needy. Like
Yes,
a living
very.
human being is an extremely needy creature.
Very much so.
And basically it's also it lives in fear that its needs wouldn't be answered, wouldn't be fulfilled. So the inner child is this part of ourselves that is depending on external resources to fulfill our needs. And it needs to be fulfilled by an adult when we are a child. But
Yeah.
once we become an adult, we have the power to fulfill our own needs, most of them.
Yeah. So now what kind of benefits do you think that people can receive from healing your inner child?
So the benefits is gaining in freedom and in truth, being truth about yourself and being true to yourself and being true to others, and obviously gaining in independence and freedom and being able to take responsibility for our own well-being. So this is the main benefit of healing the inner child. um and yeah. So,
And you just answered my next question because my next question was going to be is why is healing your inner child so important? And you just really summed that up really quickly right now. Now, how do you find or get back with your inner child? I guess is it a process of therapy sessions or is it a um like how is it handled, I guess?
so again, as I was saying previously, a little baby is a tiny little thing. And when you think about it, the brain is so close to the core, and everything is so close together. Well, the way you come back to this state is through the body, because the
Okay.
body stores the emotions, and actually the emotions are expressed through the body. When you're scared, you shiver, and you I mean, we all have different body reactions, but it's you experience it through the body. So this connection, the relationship that you develop with your body, is the first connection that you will have to your inner child. And very often we lose connection with the body because it doesn't feel safe to be in our body,
Yeah.
because we have experienced um,
Hello? Hello? Hey, Sheila? You still there? Hmm. I don't know if you can hear me, but it froze. So I'm going to try to leave the studio and see if we can come back in. Hey, can you hear me now?
Hi. Yeah,
Awesome.
sorry.
Okay. That's
I've
okay.
been, I mean, my internet usually is quite steady, but it just lost its
That's
shit.
okay. Things happen. That's okay. I was proud. I was so proud that you just popped right back in. I was like, oh
No worries.
no. All right. Well, so now how do you, what is part of the process from healing to heal from emotional trauma from your childhood, I guess?
So, I mean, obviously, it's something to be answered, I guess, by a therapist, because you need to be helped through the process, and that's a power that the ego has, that it's a closed cycle. You have learned something, and you need something to take you out of your beliefs, and
Yeah.
you can't. I would say um, you can do it by yourself, because a lot of people talk about self healing, and I truly believe in self healing, but I think you need um, support from outside, from a community, of or yeah, a therapist, but like an ethical community, and a real therapeutic process.
Yeah. Like a
Um,
support system.
yeah, a support system, and also you need mirroring, because you need to heal from this wounded connection. So uh, you need actually another connection that's going to make up for the connection that has been wounded, because we have been wounded through connection, and we
Yeah.
heal through connection. So it's really important that you do it for yourself, by yourself, but with others.
Yeah. And like making a healthier connection, kind of.
Absolutely. And yeah, it goes, as I was saying earlier, it goes through the body a lot, because your most intimate connection, even prior to your primary caregiver, is your connection with your body. And this is really important. The connection with the body is like very is the basic. If you don't know how to honor your body's needs, you will never feel safe in your body, and you will never feel safe otherwise. Like, it's just
Yeah, no,
very
that makes
important.
sense. That makes sense because when you don't take care of your body, you feel off.
Yeah.
If you're not eating properly, sleeping
Hmm.
properly, exercising properly, all those things, making sure that you put the right things in your body. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it makes you, your body, you and your body's connection are definitely the foundation.
Absolutely.
Which kind of brings me to my next question. What are some of the symptoms, or I don't know if the word would be symptoms, but we'll use the word symptoms of childhood trauma, like some of the repercussions of it, I guess you would say.
I'd say it's, well, there are several. First, I want to say, and any feeling that doesn't feel right relates to some sort of trauma in a way.
Yeah,
It can, I mean, something, in a way, we live in a very traumatic society, and we live in a very traumatic world. So a lot of
definitely.
things feel not right, although they are considered as normal. So if you're not feeling right, it means that something is wrong. So,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily you. That if you're living the same pattern over and over again, it might be that it relates to a personal trauma. So if
Yeah.
it's in one shot, and you're feeling that the situation is not right, then chances are high that the situation is not right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
living it over and over again, that it might be related to childhood trauma. Also, it, very often it translates in your ability to connect on an intimate level. um, so yeah, and also your relationship to authority. It can be uh, something that, yeah, it, if you're uncomfortable with authority, roles, and others, it can be a sign. But anything that feels uncomfortable can be a sign of trauma, to be honest.
Yeah. And you kind of just answered my next question, which was what happens if childhood trauma is not resolved? And I think definitely if I was thinking about that question, I was like a lot of times it can be a vicious cycle, and
Hmm.
you can cause the same trauma to somebody else, especially like
Yeah.
if you're a parent yourself
Hmm.
who has been traumatized as a child and never got over the healing of it.
I mean, you answered your own question in a very brilliant way. We have inherited our parents' trauma, of our parents' trauma, who have inherited them from their parents, and so on. And actually, we live in a very wounded society, because like the deep values of the society are wounded, and
Mhm.
the risk of not healing this wound that we inherited from, is to give it again to our children and the next generation. And obviously this is not what we want.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's bigger than just us as an individual. It's not only about us.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's about a whole society. It's about a whole human population together.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now, have you heard of inner child work? Or I mean, like, well, I guess that's not my question. Well, what is inner child work? I guess would be my question.
So what, how have I heard of it, or what is it?
What is it?
Okay, what is it? So again, it's going back to this little self who feels that they can't live without external validation and external resources in order to fulfill their needs. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all need external resources to fulfill our needs. We are social beings, so we need external resources to be emotionally fulfilled. We need external resources to be physically fulfilled as well, like, um, but what it means in the inner child healing is not living in scarcity, is being aware of the wideness of the world and the tremendous amount of options that we have as an adult to fulfill our needs. So if you stop relying on one single channel to fulfill your needs,
Mhm.
then you're going to gain safety. And this is what pretty much what inner child healing is about regaining safety, a sense of safety and perfusion, because we live in perfusion.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like, we live in a society that makes us believe that we live in scarcity, but the truth is we live in profusion, and there is actually a lot of waste in our world,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and a waste of energy, and a waste of, when I say energy, is a waste of intelligence, a waste of talent, a waste of emotional energy, and a waste of resources like food, like money. There is
Oh
a lot
gosh,
of
yeah.
waste. So it's about regaining a sense of profusion, and to be connected to our real needs, and not the because I really want to give an example, because I think it's really relevant. So let's say someone comes to a party and has a really small cake, and
Mhm.
says, "Okay, that's the only cake I have, guys. Who wants some?" And you have 10 persons in the party, and they don't even care about whether they really want the cake or they are really hungry. All what they want is the cake, because there is scarcity. There is such a small cake for 10 people.
Mhm.
And that if the same person comes with 1,000 cakes, and they ask these 10 people who wants cake, well, maybe not now, maybe later. You know what, I'm not that hungry, I don't really enjoy chocolate cake. Like, this is pretty much the answer you'd get.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much about gaining the safety of perfusion, and reconnecting with the reality of our own needs.
Okay, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what is your this is on topic but off topic. Um what if any kind of childhood trauma did you experience, if you don't mind me asking?
Mhm. I'm happy to share, also because I mean, I like being honest and transparent, and I have nothing to hide. So I came from a family. Both of my parents were deeply wounded. My father was an orphan. He grew up during the war. My mother has had a very traumatic childhood as well. I had a very amazing bond with my father as a child, but I had no bond with my mother at all. I think she had a very traumatic pregnancy with me, and we didn't have this connection together. So I felt a lot of abandonment. As she was, uh, like, I think because of her trauma, she was not available emotionally. So she had a neglectful and violent mother, like, mothering.
Yeah.
And I lived in a general sense of deep unsafety. I was not feeling safe as a child,
Yeah.
and I think I was um, when you don't feel welcome to this world, uh, by your primary caregiver or your mother, you have this sense where you don't feel that you belong, and you don't feel that you have a home. And I think I've always have I have been seeking for a home uh, my entire life, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much the wound that got me wherever I went. This deep um, feeling that I needed to find a place where that feels home for me.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, it's funny that you touched on that, because I wanted to recommend this book, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's called The Emotionally Absent Mother,
Mm.
and it's called How to Recognize and Heal the Invisible Effects of Childhood Emotional Neglect. And
Right.
it's by Jasmine Lee Corey, and she's also an author of Healing from Trauma. It's a book I just started reading, because I too grew up with a mother that was kind of disconnected from me. She suffered a lot of her own childhood trauma, a lot of adult trauma before she had me, and she is bipolar, and and has ADHD and a lot of other mental illnesses going on that made it very hard for her to parent. And so I think that, and she was there, but she wasn't there.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. And I think that happens a lot. And in my own parenting, I have noticed where I have dropped the ball per se from my own mental illnesses because I have bipolar disorder myself too, and I actually suffer from borderline personality disorder
Mm.
and ADHD and anxiety, and those things can be very hard to um to handle when you're parenting and trying to make somebody else feel safe when you've been wounded yourself too. So I can totally understand and relate where you're coming from.
Yeah. And I remember having this conversation with you and feeling deeply connected. And this is also how you connect, actually, with others, because they went through the same ordeals in life, and they just, you can relate. And I think it's very powerful that you share it as well. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right. That's part of the reason why I started this podcast is because I knew that there were so many other people out here that are hurting or trying to heal. And like you said, a way to heal is through connection.
Yeah.
And I've constantly been trying to put out that connection with others to find some kind of healing in that process.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say? How would your parents um describe what you do now? Do you still have a relationship with them?
So my father passed away 5 years ago, and
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
it was a very um, I mean, I had a very, very deep connection with my father, and he was
Yeah.
mystical, and I think he introduced me
Um,
to spirituality. So I
yeah.
think he will be very proud of me now, and I think, I mean, I he has been a big inspiration in my life, and I think it's aligned with the values that I carry from him. So I would say my father would be definitely proud of me. I don't have a relationship with my mother anymore. I think we we are different people,
Yeah.
and I completely understand where she's coming from on an intellectual level, but obviously at some point it is important as well for me to just move on, and to not remain, because staying in the same family system and sustaining the lie is not necessarily it's not a choice that I'm willing to make,
Yeah.
and I have been thinking about it deeply, and yeah, so I don't know what she will think, and I just wish her best, like the best in this life, and I'm grateful for what she has given me, because I know that it was the maximum that she was able to give, and yeah.
That's a really good way of thinking about it. I really, really like that. Because I struggle. My mom actually, I'm her caregiver now. I take care of her. She lives with me. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but as growing up, it was very hard. And we kind of lost contact for a little while until I had my own children. And I kind of allowed her back in my life because I had had my own children, and I felt like, well, for them not to have a grandparent would be wrong of me. So I wanted to give them the opportunity to have her. Except part of the issue that I had with that. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Oh, hold on one second. Sorry, my headphones disconnected.
Okay.
Is okay. Can you hear? Does it sound like there's buzzing going on, or is that just my headphones?
I mean, I can't hear anything buzzing.
Okay, good. All right, awesome. That's
Okay.
good. Because I was hearing buzzing and I was like, wait a
No.
second. Um, but yeah, I think that now it's hard to, as we moved back in with each other, because it's only been a few years since that we started to live with each other again, and we kind of had um, a severed relationship over the years. I have three children. My oldest is 22, and so over the past 22 years, it's been um, we have a relationship because I have children. And now that we live together again, a lot of old hurt inner child wounds are opening
Yeah.
back up. And I didn't realize how much it hurt
Mm.
until now as an
Yeah.
adult, trying to work through the wounds and trying to, and that's why when I found your page, I was like, wow, I really, really need this. I could really use this in my life right now, because I'm going through a lot with like trying to, it's hard because when somebody is not necessarily, they're going through their own stuff, and you can understand, like you said, on an intellectual level, I can understand where she's coming from as an individual, not
Yeah.
as my mother, and as another human being who's gone through trauma herself,
Yeah.
and who I understand why that trauma affected her and why it affected her parenting, and but it still hurts.
Oh yeah.
It still
Oh
hurts
yeah. Oh my
as
God. Yeah.
oh my gosh, yes.
Absolutely.
It
It
still
does.
hurts a bunch.
And yeah, and just just to reflect a little bit more on what you just said. Um, I mean,
If you could hear me, just sign back out and sign back in like you did last time. Hey there.
sorry again.
That's okay. That's totally fine. That's what editing is for.
I was just about to say to just reflect on what you were saying about like living with your mother again. This this dynamic when you go and live with your parents again, and especially like in the situation where you become their caregiver, the dynamic comes back so strongly, the dynamic from childhood, and it's really really hard to challenge because I'd say the reason why I'm in peace, and also I'm not, like, to be fully honest, I'm not completely in peace with my relationship with my mother. It's not
Yeah.
because, like, but I'd say the separation helps, because
Yes.
the separation helps you to, like, reconnect with yourself, like, just yeah, challenge the enmeshment, the merging you had,
Yeah.
and it's just makes it easier. But when you live under the same roof, and it's just really hard. So I really really I feel you. And
Yeah.
whenever I used to go back to my mother's house, I was like feeling so shit, and I had the eating disorders for ages, and I was binging, like I was binging all the time when I was seeing her. It was like guaranteed. So I completely get what you mean.
Oh yeah. A lot of my therapy time is ended up talking about my mom. It's a lot
Yeah.
of talking about my
Oh,
mom.
a lot of people can. Like, I
I
know.
know, right? And that's why I hope to heal my own inner child. So my children, I always say it's my job. It's your job as a parent to just not fuck your kid up as much as possible. Like
Yeah.
just as much as you can. Just not fuck them up. It's really one of the most important. I feel like it is the most important job. You're bringing another life onto this into this world that is, like you said, completely dependent on you
Yeah.
and looks to you for that everything.
Yeah.
Looks to you for physicalness, for emotional, for spiritual, for everything.
Yeah.
It's not a job to be taken lightly at all.
No, but also I think looking at the reason why you're having a kid, because if you have a kid as a social asset, it's not the
Hmm.
same thing as having a kid because you actually feel the desire of mentoring a little being into this life, and just like the need of transmission is not the same as like having a social asset. Like I want to be a mother and it's about me. It's about me
Exactly.
being a mother.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's not the same thought. It doesn't give the same result
You're
either.
right. It's like the people that are like, "Oh, well, now I've gone through school, I've gotten married, now I must have 2.5 children."
Yeah.
Like it's not like that. That's not the purpose of it. The
Yeah.
purpose is so much deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what's your favorite childhood memory that you have?
Um
Or one of your favorites?
well, I think my favorite uh was my very long and very deep conversations with my father, because we used to spend hours together. And he got me when he was 50, so he was an old man. And
Oh,
we
my dad
still,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, yeah. And we used to sit together and speak about like a lot of things, like about history, about geography, about spirituality,
Mhm.
and I think those, yeah, those are very fond memories of mine. And I really enjoyed what I learned from this time as a child. It really opened my mind. It made me feel like I was a part of something so big,
Yeah.
that the world was so huge and so big, and that I could be so free in this world, and that I had options, because yeah, and it was very important to me.
Oh, that's really beautiful. My dad was an older father too. He had me when he was, oh gosh, he was 56, I think, when he had me. And he's been passed away now for quite a while. He passed away when he was
Mm.
89. But that was one of my good memories too, was that just the time that we spent together, just the way that he made me feel. He made me
Yeah.
feel important and special and part of this world. So I really appreciate all of the greatness that he brought to me. And now that
Okay.
I think about it, of one regret that I did have, and I was just talking to my aunt about this the other day, is that as he was getting, because he passed away from leukemia, so as he was
Mm.
getting sick, I was his caregiver, and I had just had a baby. I had a lot going on, and my sibling my siblings weren't as able to be a part of it as I was, and I was under a lot of duress in my relationship at the time, and I took for granted the time that we had left with each other.
Yeah.
There was a lot of, "Oh, come on, dad, we have to get you to the doctors. Let's rush, rush, rush. I got to get this baby home to get stuff done for him," and da 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 da. And I felt like I rushed a lot of our time towards the end with each other, and I didn't take the time to just still have those talks together. And that's just one of my. I haven't gotten over it, but I'm working through it still. To
Yeah.
to know that it it wasn't all it wasn't all in vain, but at the same time, I really wish that I had just stopped and smelled the roses a little bit longer with him.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting, because in my opinion, we we never leave, and we just go elsewhere, but
No,
our energy
definitely.
never
Our
leaves.
energy
And
is constant. Yeah, energy
absolutely,
doesn't die.
yeah, and yeah, when you're talking about your father and all this time that you took for granted, I mean, this time in a way still exists because there is a way for you to communicate with this energy that you had from him. And this is I remember the last conversation that I had with my father because he was very sick, and he pretty much knew that he was going to pass to die very soon. And I
Yeah.
had this last conversation with him, and he was always very witty. And he said, you know, people say that you like death exists, but that's not true. You're just going elsewhere. It's just like the continuity of life.
Yeah.
And he told me this. I was 27 by then, and he told me this as if I was a little child. And actually, I was like looking at what he was saying in a very innocent
Yeah.
way, and I was like, actually, that makes sense. It speaks to my heart, and I believe it's true. He's telling me the truth.
Yeah. No, and it makes to me it has always made perfect sense. Like it's I feel like it's scientific fact that energy is constant.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're driving cars around right now.
Hmm.
And when the car runs out of gas, then you just move to a different vehicle.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. I
Yeah.
feel like that's definitely the case.
I agree.
Now, if you could go back and you could give your 5-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I mean, that's really interesting that you're speaking about the 5 years old because I remember that when I was five, I started to pretty much hate myself because I was a chubby child.
Oh,
I'm from a North African, Middle Eastern background, and I was living in Paris. Um, and I was just different,
yeah.
I felt pretty ashamed of what how I was looking like and who I was. And I think what I would say now is you are perfect. You are just like absolutely perfect. You are super sassy. You are super funny. You are really talented. You're very creative, and also just hold on to your dreams because they are needed in this world. And don't feel sick because the word is sick and the word needs healing, and it
Yes.
needs you to stay connected to your dreams to in order to help others. And I think this is the advice I would give to my 5 years old self,
Yes,
like
that's
stop feeling
beautiful.
ugly.
Yeah,
You
that's
are
beautiful.
absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, that's so beautiful. All right, well, now tell me about the 3 most influential people in your life and how they impacted you.
Honestly, I'm influenced and inspired by everyone, and everyone I meet, I tend to find something absolutely beautiful about them, and even the people who have been very who I felt very hurt by my connection with them. But I think
Yeah,
this hurting has been also very healing
yeah,
and very powerful. Uh, some connections have had a huge impact on my life, and some of them have been extremely short connections, and they still like changed my life completely and changed my vision um, completely. So it's I think it wouldn't be fair for me to pick three people because I got so much from so many different souls in this world. Now I have to say that I'm pretty much like I know I have been speaking about my father. I have daddy issues for sure, but he has been a very important influence in my life, especially because he was a free spirit,
oh,
and he encouraged this in me, this deep independence, and the fact that I question everything, and especially about myself. This is
yeah.
something that I took about, like, I mean, he didn't question himself so much, but to be honest, he was a pretty patriarchal father. But I kind of took the curiosity from him. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. And now did you what are some ways that you've used to heal your inner child and start to repair your inner self?
Um, well, I am I am still healing, and I think, I mean, I'm wondering if anybody has fully healed.
Yeah, right?
I'd like to hear from them. I want
Yeah,
to
right?
learn from
I know,
them.
I'd like to meet that person.
I want, yeah, I want to. Let's have a show all together, and
Yeah,
we can speak
exactly.
about it. You need to share your tips. But I'd say what I'm trying to put in place is connecting more in depth with my body, because um, I, as I said, I had very bad eating disorders for years and years and years. And as soon as I feel that, actually, maybe I got over it, it comes back.
Yes.
So connecting with my body is a big part of it. It went through exercise. I was doing CrossFit for a couple of years. It really helped me in the first place, and now I'm moving to something milder, to connect more in depth, and probably also to connect my spirit and my intellect and everything together, because CrossFit is really like physically focused, and maybe a bit like about the intellect and the way you manage um, your anxiety. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, um, yeah, I do meditation,
Oh,
which
okay.
connects me to the present moment and to myself as well. Anything that really connects me to the body and helps me connecting all parts of myself
Yeah.
is a good way. And art is a good way, like drawings,
Yes.
and I do sculpture, and yeah.
That's awesome. So now, and I know for myself, like, so I used to be, and I'm a recovering self harmer. I haven't done it in a while, but it is something that unfortunately, when times get dark, I have fallen back on it. But like you said, I try to find healthier outlets, and exercise is one that helps with the anxiety and stuff like that. I have always had trouble meditating, because I don't know if it's the ADHD, I don't know if it's the anxiety, I don't know if it's whatever it is, but my brain will not turn itself off in order
Yeah.
to meditate. But
Yeah.
I'm actually on March 21st, I'm starting this it's called IOP, it's intensive outpatient program
Mhm.
at Johns Hopkins Hospital. And so what I'll do is Monday through Friday I'll go 9:30 to 12:30 for therapy, and one of the things that they're going to be incorporating is meditation. So I'm really excited about that, because I'm hoping that the meditation will take and I'll be able to concentrate long enough to sit still and not fall asleep. Because I used to, in yoga class, I used to try to take yoga, and at the end they would meditate, and I would always fall asleep because I would get too relaxed and I would always fall
The
asleep and
I
have to be
think
woken up.
I mean, I completely understand what you mean about meditation, and like really I can relate, because I first started meditation when I used to be in a, like, it was a charity for people suffering from eating disorders in Paris, and meditation was one way of connecting with the body. And I was like, oh my god, I really can't do it. That makes me so anxious.
Yes,
and
yes.
and I realized that actually I could be doodling or doing sculpture or doing something artistic and be fully present in the moment, or
Yeah,
doing exercise, and that exercise is almost a form of meditation. Like prayer is the form of meditation. Like
yeah.
in I don't know if you're familiar with Sufism, which is a
No, I'm
very
not.
interesting form of Islam.
Oh,
And
wow.
people just well, I don't know, obviously I don't know the term in English. They wire, they turn on
Okay, okay.
themselves, and they enter a trance,
Oh,
and
wow.
they just like, it's a form of meditation as well. Dance is a form of meditation, because you are connected connecting to your body, connecting to your energy. And I
Yeah.
think like you don't have to be sitting there. This is my opinion though. I'm pretty sure not everyone would agree with me, but in my opinion, you can meditate through like dancing
Yeah.
and
Oh,
just like
yeah.
be fully present and be in your body. And that's meditative.
Oh, I 100% agree because so I love dancing and I love singing. And when I was, but I'm a little bit like I'm very insecure. So at more times of my life when I have not been so insecure, and usually it's been my more manic times in life that I've been less insecure and I've had like that dose of courage from the mania. But I used to do karaoke a lot and I used to go out and go dancing and it was like I was in a trance.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, like, no one I was not there, but I was there.
yeah. Yeah, that's what we want. Maybe that's for you, Kiana.
Yes,
maybe
exactly, right?
maybe sitting there is not no.
Exactly. Work my way through dance. Well, now, what do you now, I know you want to talk about, and I think it's such a good thing, regarding what's currently happening in the world, how do our individual childhood wounds impact us collectively or impact the world societies that we live in?
Yeah, I mean that's a very important one because uh, obviously we are seeing almost ghosts from the past coming
Mhm.
back at the moment, and we are talking about war. And I grew up talking about the first world war and then the second world war, and thinking, oh my god, never again, it's never going to happen again. And
Yeah.
then we had other wars. We had decolonization wars, and then we had, I mean, I was not even there, but my parents were there in
Yeah.
Algeria. But anyway, we
Yeah.
had wars in Middle East. We had, and now we are facing a war, the beginning of a war, and I hope it's not going to end up like that,
Yeah.
in Russia and Ukraine. And
Mhm.
what I find extremely interesting about this specific situation is that these are ghosts from the past. It's almost,
Definitely.
if you go back to saying, let's say Russia is the parent and
Yes.
Ukraine is the child, and the
Yes.
child is trying to separate itself from the parent, and the parent doesn't want this separation to happen. And it's just like, and both have been wounded because the parent has been seeing a very traumatic event happening.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia has lived a lot of traumatic events culturally,
Yeah.
and they have been deeply wounded. So it's understandable on both sides, but because it's just like deeply ingrained that
Mhm.
this tribal vision that if you're free, you are abandoning me. Whereas it's just a mindset. It's not, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that if I'm separated from you, it doesn't mean that I'm going to attack you. It's a very tribal concept.
Yeah.
And I think inner child healing is about just abandoning what we call in psychology the Karpman triangle, which is basically rescuer, victim, and persecutor, and constantly like changing roles. And
Okay.
it's just like if everybody was taking their responsibility, like if for example we were living in a mature and adult world, a parent will tell to each child, okay, you want to be free, let's be free, let's be friends. You know what,
Yeah.
I'm still here, I have your back in case
Yeah.
in case anything happens. And I hope you're gonna visit sometimes, because we are, I mean, we carry your memory,
Yeah.
and we are your ancestry. So I hope we keep a good relationship. And other than that, well, take care and do your things and do your life, and I'm gonna support you. And we could live in such, like, we could live in heaven if everybody was decided to become an adult. And
Yeah.
you can apply it to the workspace, like your boss. and the way your boss behaves with you, and how much you're scared that your boss is going to punish you because you're not doing the right thing, and blah blah blah. And it's always, you always need to make an effort and getting a reward. We need to go to work and wake up every morning in order to produce something that people may not even consume, just
Mm-hmm.
to have a roof under our heads and to pay our food. Like, the whole society is built in the way that we need to betray ourselves constantly, whereas there is no actual need
Yes.
to do it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so well put. Oh my goodness gracious. That was really well put. That's basically what I couldn't have said that better myself. Now, I noticed in there, I heard Nigeria.
No, Algeria.
Oh,
It's yeah,
Algeria. Oh, okay,
Algeria.
okay. Algeria. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
Nigeria. I was like, we have family from Nigeria too. Okay, so now what do you think what do you see as our future for society?
Surprisingly, I am extremely positive about the future. Like, I
Yay.
really, really think that I think my generation, I was born in 89.
Okay.
I think my generation is pretty much here to destroy all old values and to
Good.
destroy everything.
Good. Bring it on.
And I think we are just destroying the old patterns. We are not complying, and we are very rev- like we are in a revolution, but this is an individual revolution, so it's really really hard to manage. And I think the next generation gonna probably rebuild things on other bases, but what has happened in the past is not gonna happen again. And you won't um, be able to control our generation the way you controlled our parents, because the thing is, now that you've gave us something, it's like a little baby, you've gave us this connection, and this connection has been brought a lot by internet and by the ability to connect with each
Yes.
other, to create communities. Once we got this, we are not going to leave it. And
Oh
actually
yeah.
we are building communities everywhere. And now these movements of self healers, and these people, you can log into Instagram and read a lot of very inspiring quotes, and it can actually change your vision about the world. You don't need to have a PhD or whatever. Like,
Yep.
it's just, we are not living in a world that needs you to have degrees or anything to just seek happiness.
Yeah.
You deserve happiness, like whoever you are, wherever you are. The norm should be happiness. It's not because it's not what it is at the moment in the word,
Yeah.
that the word is right. You're right. You deserve happiness, you deserve pleasure, you deserve anything that has been put by the universe within you. Any need that you have deserves to be fulfilled.
Yeah. And that.
And
Definitely.
and in the sense that, obviously, some some needs are here to to fulfill a wound and to
Yeah.
entertain this wound. So I'd say it's also like very important to be careful about this, because uh, the, the the bottomless need is actually not a need. It's just something that keeps entertaining a wound.
Oh, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
But I'd say the once you dig into your inner child healing and you connect with your actual needs, then it's easier for you to identify the the difference between the
Yeah.
two, between the addiction and the actual need, because we also live in a world that pushes us to have addiction.
Very much so. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yeah. That is one really big problem in our world, and I think that um it makes it so easy. I think our society and our world makes it so easy for these addictions to come about, that they're so
Oh
readily
yeah.
available to us,
Yeah.
and it's so it's so socially acceptable too, to a
Oh
certain
yeah,
extent.
yeah,
An addiction of any
completely.
sort, and
Hmm.
any sort of addiction, I think is very acceptable and brushed under the rug, or given an excuse for, or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for taking the time out to come on my show. I really, really appreciate it. This has been a wonderful, the pleasure. It's been such a pleasure for you
Same for
to
me.
share all your information. Now, where do you see yourself going in the future with all this?
Um, I mean, obviously, I want to qualify as a clinical sexologist, and I want to do research around cultural sexual trauma. So
Oh,
this is pretty
wow.
much the topic that interests me the most, and I mean the reason why I have such a deep interest in inner child healing is also because uh, I mean we carry a sexual wound as
Yeah,
children as well,
definitely.
and no matter, I mean obviously some people have experienced physical sexual trauma in
Yep.
childhood, but some people experience also emotional sexual trauma in childhood and maybe they are not aware of it, and I think it really influences our society as well, and we live in a highly sexualized society,
Very much.
and we don't necessarily have um, the tools to identify this sexual charge that we live in as children in this society. So I think it's an important topic as well.
Oh my gosh, you just made me think of a whole nother topic to have you on for another
Yeah,
show.
that
This is,
made me.
you'll definitely be back because everything you just said just
I would
speak volumes right
I would
now.
love to.
Yeah, like so many thoughts just went off in my head. Like, wow, you just blew my mind with everything you just said. Like I like because you're right. A lot of things are so like I never even thought of the idea of emotional sexual trauma for children because when you
Mm,
think of sexual trauma, you think of physical abuse, and
yeah,
that's about it. But there's so much more than that in
yeah,
childhood.
yeah.
Like, wow, I didn't, wow, you really just blew my mind on that one. Oh, well, thank you so much. I'm going to get ready to close out. This is all the time that we've had for today, but I really appreciate you coming on. And I really look forward to you coming back on again with the next
I would
subject
love to.
because
Thank you so much.
awesome. Well, I hope that you enjoy your weekend. And
You
is
too.
there any shout outs that you'd like to give to anybody or any you want to plug your Instagram page or anything like that?
Yeah, so my Instagram page is on the inner child, all in one word, and I'm very grateful for this talk. I was very nervous. I'm not gonna lie, and
So
I'm
was I,
always,
don't
you know,
worry.
I'm always on the edge of talking shit. Like I'm always tempted to just drop a joke or and and it's just yeah, it's just it was a real pleasure for me, and I'm really inspired by your work and your personality and your and the bits of like personal history of yours that you've shared,
Oh, thank you.
and I'm pleased that you offered me this opportunity to talk. It was the very first time, and I will surely remember it
Oh, we'll keep in
forever.
touch. We'll
Yeah.
keep in touch, definitely. I would really like that, definitely. Oh,
Thank you.
well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I have to give out my shout outs too to Jake Dante at Off the Mats Podcast and Tiana Taylor at BJ Wiki, or excuse me, at BJJ. And it's Tiana underscore lowercase t Taylor underscore BJJ. And I just want to say you take care and I will be talking to you again soon.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I'll see you later. Take care.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, that was Sheila Youcef, and she was such a great guest to have on. I really learned a lot about the inner child and healing and everything like that. And she's definitely going to be coming on for another episode after we just talked about so much more that just speaks volumes about her background and what she knows about. So just remember, guys, I'm listening. And let's talk about it with Q. And you guys all have a great evening. All right. Take care.